Hello everyone, in this lecture we will learn how to make our test cases data driven using JSON files and PyTest Parameterization. That will help us to eliminate hard coded data from our test cases and make our test framework more maintainable and flexible. Currently our test data like username and password are hard coded in this login page, right? So here we have given the data, the username, and here we have given the password, right? So let's fix it first. This should not be the ideal case, right? So instead of hard coding the credential, let's pass it as argument. So here def login, and here we can pass username, and here we can pass password. Okay, and this username we can give it here, and this. Okay, and this login method, where we are calling it, we are calling it in our test, right? So here we should give the username and password, right? So what is the username and password? Let me copy it from here. So this is our username and this is our password, right? So we are passing this username and password from our test. Okay, but what my point here is, also we can have all this data inside a JSON file. So tomorrow if there are some modification required to our test data, we can directly modify the JSON file and execute the test. No need to update the test code. So let's do that. First let me create a new directory. Okay, so inside this framework we have all the page object here. Let me create a new directory and we will name it as data. Okay, and inside this let's create a new JSON file. So make sure that this JSON file name is exactly same as the test name. Okay, so in that way we can have individual JSON file for each test. Also it will be easy to identify which JSON file is used for which test case. So here I'll give the file name as test underscore source.json. Okay, because this is my test name, test underscore source. Okay, this is a JSON file, that's why it ends with .json. Okay, so here we'll have curly braces and some key value pairs, very simple JSON. Okay, so let's have a key here, that is data. Okay, and here we'll write value. We have so many values here, that means array. In Python it is a list. So all the data what we need for our test case we'll write here. Then let me add one more setup of data here. All right, so I will say username. Okay, and we'll give the username value here, comma, then password. Okay, and here we'll give the password. So let me copy it from here. This is the username and this is the password. So this is one setup of data which we are storing in this JSON file and we can use to log in. Okay, so if we want to use different setup of data, right, so we can create another sub JSON. Okay, so we can just put a comma here and then again copy this and put it here. Okay, and here maybe we can use this username. Okay, and password is same here, that's why I am using same password. Okay, but you can give whatever data you need, right? So basically this setup of data will be used for the first run and this setup of data will be used for the second run, or you can say it as first test case, second test case. Similarly, if you want to run it with one more setup of data, you can also copy and paste it here. Okay, so as of now I will just run this two setup of data. Okay, so our JSON file is ready with key value pairs. Now let's go to our test. Okay, so in this test our goal is to first pull the JSON file first, then we can replace this username and password value with JSON data, right? So let's try to read the JSON file first. Okay, so in our Python section we have already learned how to read the file, how to write into the file. If you have not seen that, I recommend you to go back to that section and see how to read and write the files. Anyway, first let's open the JSON file to read it. Okay, so here what we can do, we can write with, okay, then open, and then we can give the path of that file. So right now our test is here, right, in the project level. Then we have to go inside this data and then we have to give this path, right? So what we can do, we can just do slash data and then we can give test underscore source dot json. okay, and then we can say it as f. So what we did here, we open the file, read the content of the JSON file and assign it to the f object. Okay, then what we can do, we can just do JSON dot load, okay, and we can say f, okay, and then just import it. Okay, so this load method will convert our JSON file into Python object. So once it is converted, our entire JSON as a Python object, let's collect that into one variable. So for now we'll name it as test data. Okay, so I'll put it as test underscore data equal to JSON.load f. Okay, so now this test data holds the entire content of the JSON file as a Python dictionary, but we are only interested to pull this value. So how to do that? Here test data is holding the entire dictionary, right? So if we want to access the value, all we need to do is we need to say test data of this data. Okay, so here I have written date, so this should be data. Okay, anything you can write, so data is more meaningful, right? So what we can do here, let's go to our test and then we can say test data of data. Okay, now let's assign it to a variable. We can call it as a test underscore list because it is a list, right? So we have two setup of data, right? This is one setup of data and this is one setup of data, right? So we'll use PyTest parameterization concept. Okay, so let's go to our test and here we'll use parameterization concept. So how to do that? We know we can use @PyTest, okay, then dot mark, okay, then we can say dot parameterize. Okay, so let me import this PyTest. So here we'll send this test underscore list, right? Because we want to run this test with different sets of data, right? We understood, right? Test underscore list contains list of dictionaries, one dictionary per test case. Okay. Also we can pass here data underscore set. So this data underscore set is just a variable name that will hold each test data dictionary one at a time in each test run. So let's remove the username and password value and let's get it from the data dictionary. So here instead of this, what we can write? Data set of username, and here we can write data set of. So here we are still seeing an error, right? Whoever getting this error, it is throwing an error because from parameterization annotation it has to go as an argument. Okay, so here if we'll see, it should go as an argument here. So the error is gone, right? Okay, one more thing. Okay, this is missing, right? Okay, so this is fine now. So all set then, right? So let's execute this test. Okay, so PyTest test underscore source.py -v. Let's execute it. Let's see. Okay, we are seeing one error. What is that? No such file or directory. Okay, so what we have given here? Okay, let me remove this. This is not required. Let's execute. Okay, spelling mistake I did, I believe. Parameterize. Okay, let me run now. See, one time test got executed, second time test started with a different user. Okay, this test also got executed. Fine. So we saw same test got executed twice with two different sets of data, and we read this data from a JSON file. Okay, from this JSON file. Okay, for this user it got executed once, and for this user it got executed once. So what's the benefit of this approach? Tests are data driven. Test logic is separated from test data. So business team can update data without touching the code. Tests become reusable and scalable for different input scenarios. Okay, so let's do one more thing. Here I noticed one more thing. Here we are hard coding the URL. Okay, so this is not required, right? Let's remove this hard-coded URL. Okay, we can place this inside our conm-test file. Okay, so let's remove this and let's go to our conm-test. So here, okay, we can put it here. Okay, also we can remove this driver.implicit from here and we can put it inside our conm-test file. Okay, let's add it here only. So this is more clean, right? So we can go to our test.source file, and so basically this is our test file, right? Let's remove everything. Let's keep this very clean. Okay, unnecessary things, let's remove it from here, and I can remove this commented code also. Okay, and okay, this should be fine. Let's execute for the final time and see if everything is fine. We can also remove this. I just noticed it was also here. You can also remove this. This is no need because we have already the implicit weight in conm-test file. Okay, so we saw how to data drive our test cases using JSON and PyTest parameterization. That's all for this lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.